name is Sparky and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over the basics of After Effects. So before we get started, I'm just going to explain a few things and then we'll jump right into it. So I'm using After Effects CC 2019. You can use a newer version or an older version, I don't think it really matters because whatever I show in this video it should work. So before we get started, I'm going to go over a list of plugins. Now, plugins are things that they're extensions that you can add into After Effects that give you more options when editing and make editing a lot smoother, and also make your edits look a lot better in my opinion. So the ones I currently use is Sapphire, RSMB, Twixtor, and the BCC plugin. And I also have a graph plugin which you can see here. It's called Flow and it just allows you to create graph presets. So all these plugins are paid, but you can get them for free off of YouTube. Just make sure your computer has virus protection. Yeah, I downloaded all of mine from YouTube, so that's where you can get those. So when you first open After Effects, it will look something like this. You obviously won't have this panel here because this is an extension that I have. So first of all, we want to pick an audio. So I've got my audio folder open here. So when you've selected an audio, you just click and drag it and it will appear over here in your project panel. And then I am going to click it and drag it down here onto my timeline. So as you can see, we have the audio here, and if you go over to the left, I'm going to click this little eye icon, and that is going to turn it off, like the video part, so you don't see that. So as we can see here, if you come up to the left hand side, the video size is 720 by 720. Now I want to change this, so I'm going to go up to the top where it says composition, and I'm going to go to composition settings. And I'm going to set mine to the video style size, which is 1440 by 1440. And I'm going to press OK. And also you can change the background color here to whatever you want, but I'm just going to keep mine black. So now we have the audio, we then need to split it. To do this, you're going to play through your audio. When you get to a bit where you want to split it, you want to press Shift on your keyboard and any one of the numbers from 0 to 9. So I'm going to press Shift and 0. This marks my first beat in the audio, so where my first transition will start. And I'm going to do this for the entirety of the audio. And also to play through this, you just press the spacebar. Okay, now I have split all the parts of my audio that I want to use. But as you can see, my timeline is way too big because my edit is going to end where this number 8 is. So what I want to do is make this shorter. Now before I explain this, I'm going to go over shortcuts. So to make this shorter, I'm going to press N. Now this trims my composition down, so we don't have this anymore. We just have this selected part. And to do the opposite, so if I was to go over here to 0, which is where I want my edit to start, I'm going to press B. So B is for beginning, N is for end. And then here are some other ones that you might find useful. So P is for position, S is for scale, R is for rotation, T is for opacity, I brings you to the very start of your edit, and O brings you to the very end. So those are the basic ones that you need to know. So as you can see here, we've selected this small portion of our audio, but we still have all this space at the beginning and at the end. So I'm going to go up to composition and trim comp to work area. So my work area is this bit that's selected here. So it's going to get rid of the start and the end. So these beats are where I want my pictures, videos to be. And again, the same with your video, you're just going to click, not do that. You're just going to click and drag your pictures in and they will show up on your timeline. Okay, so as you can see, we have all our images here. So I've imported 4 of them and they also show up over here. So if you press a number that's on your timeline, so I have 0 to 8, I'm going to press 1. So that brings me to the end of my first transition. So I'm going to click on the second photo and I'm going to press the left bracket, and that will bring it to where my blue line currently is, and I'm going to do this all the way across. So I'm going to go to 2, press the left bracket, 3, and press the left bracket. Now I'm not going to go all the way to 8 because this is just a tutorial, so I'm not going to do transitions for the whole thing. So here we are, we have all of our pictures in place where they need to be on the beats, but as you can see, they are way too small. We have all this black space. So what we want to do is click on the picture that you want, press S on your keyboard to bring up scale, and we're just going to drag this slider until all the black space is gone. We want to do this for every image. Okay, so now all our photos fit in the frame. Now, as you can see, our our pictures are a bit long. They extend under some of these other ones. Now, you might want them to extend under if you're doing like split slides or you want the picture in the background. But I don't think I want them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 2. No, actually, I'm going to go to 1, and I'm going to press Control Shift D. Now that splits my clip, and then I'm just going to delete it. So I'm going to go to 2, Control Shift D, delete the excess, go to 3, Control Shift D, delete, 4, Control Shift D. I'm going to save this real quick because After Effects does tend to crash. So you want to save at least every 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And to do that, you just press Control and S, and I'm going to name this tutorial video. There. So I'm going to play through what I have so far. And to do that, I'm going to press the spacebar. There we go. We have our 4 clips. To start the transitions, we want to pre-compose. We're going to right click and go at the bottom here and press pre-compose. Then you want to make sure the second option is selected and click OK. What this allows you to do is add transitions to this, and then if you want to add other things, you can click into it and add other transitions. So I could zoom it here, come out of it, and then zoom it or do other things. I want to pre-compose every single clip or image. Now, as for transitions, there are 2 ways you can do them. I'm going to show you the way I normally do them with Sapphire, and then I'm going to show you a way you can do it without plugins. So you want to go over to the right hand side and find effects and presets. Then you want to type in S_blur mode curves, and this is if you have the Sapphire plugin. You want to double click it and it is placed onto my first clip. But you want to make sure whatever clip you want it on, it is selected. So we come over to the right side here and we have all these different effects. We have X shift, which is left and right, Y shift, which is up and down. We have rotation and zoom. So I am going to start with a zoom transition. So I'm going to click this stopwatch, and also I want to add a slide, so I am going to do an X shift and also click that stopwatch. So we've clicked the stopwatches, but what do we do now? So you're going to press U on your keyboard. This will bring up your keyframes, and your keyframes are these little diamonds. So then I'm going to leave these numbers and I'm going to press 1. This brings me to the end of my clip. I am going to click on these little diamond buttons to add 2 more keyframes. I'm then going to go back to the beginning, and I am going to change my Z-disk number. I'm just going to change my Z-disk to wherever I think's right, so 0.53. There we go. So now we have the start of a zoom transition. And what you want to do, you want to come over to the right hand side here, where you've got warp X and warp Y. Now this is your motion tile, or your like reflection. So I'm going to set mine to tile on both of those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight, so I'm going to click and drag and highlight the first two keyframes. And I'm going to press F9 on my keyboard. For some people you have to press Fn and F9, but yeah, so press F9 and then I'm going to go to 1. So now I'm going to open up my graph editor, which is here. So for some of your graphs, they might look like this. But what you want to do, you want to click on this grid and change it to value graph. And I'm going to do a starting transition. So I'm going to bring this bottom one up. Oh, and I'm going to bring this right one across. They don't have to be touching, just something similar to this. And as you can see, we have a base. So now I'm going to keyframe the X slide. So I've already added my keyframes, but I haven't put the numbers in. So I'm just going to drag it left or right. I'm going to drag it right. I'm going to drag it to about there. The numbers you use don't really matter, whatever you think looks good. And again, I'm going to F9 and open up my graph. I'm going to drag this top one down because I'm doing an out transition and end transition, and this bottom one right. Ooh. Now, for my out transitions, I tend to make them a bit delayed. So to do this, you have this thick line here. I'm just going to drag it down a bit like this. This will make my transition delayed. So this is what this looks like. As you can see, with Blur Mode Curves, it already has motion blur enabled. If you are not using Blur Mode Curves, you want to click this little enable motion blur option, and then you want to click toggle switches and modes, and then enable it here for all of your pictures. So now we have done a zoom and a slide using plugins. Now to do the next transition, so the slide coming in, you just repeat what you did previously, except in the opposite direction. But for this transition, I'm going to show it without plugins. So first of all, we want to add motion tile, but I find motion tile makes After Effects quite laggy. I'm going to add CC Rep tile instead. And I'm going to change all these numbers to 500. Oh, 500. And then I'm going to change it from repeat to no. Yeah, no, I want to keep it on repeat. So you want to use repeat or unfold. So now we need to do the rest of the slide transition. So I'm going to press P on my keyboard. I'm going to click the stopwatch, and that brings up my keyframe. I'm going to go to 2 and I'm going to click the diamond button again. So now we want to go in the opposite direction than what we did previously. So the left side of the numbers goes left and right, the right side of the numbers goes up and down. So I'm going to just drag it wherever I think looks good. And then I'm going to highlight my keyframes again, press F9, and open up the graph editor. And then, oh, so as you can see here, the graph editor doesn't work because you can't use those type of graphs with regular positions. Now you can if you use a speed graph, but I don't really like speed graphs. So to fix this issue, I'm going to come out of the graph editor. I'm going to right click on position, and I'm going to do separate dimensions. Now this will add more keyframes on the bottom, but you don't need to worry about those. We're just doing the top keyframes. You highlight them again, and because there's separate dimensions, it allows you to do the previous graphs. So I'm going to bring this bottom one up and this right one across, like so. And as you can see on this transition, because we haven't used the Blur Mode Curves plugin, there is no blur, so I'm just going to enable it like so. and now I want to zoom out. So to do this, I'm going to press S, and then I'm going to go to 2, obviously enable the stopwatch, press the diamond button, and I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to highlight my keyframes, F9. Now I'm going to bring this right side up and this left side across. And I'm going to obviously make it warpy, or delayed rather, so I'm going to bring it up above that line. I want it to be quite warpy, so I'm going to bring it quite far up. And this is how it looks. So as you can see, it zooms in before it zooms out. So the last transition I'm going to show you is a rotation. So I'm going to be using blur mode curves to do this rotation, but if you don't have blur mode curves, you can just press R on your keyboard and follow these same steps. So I'm going to change my tile to reflect. I'm going to enable the rotate keyframes. Press U on my keyboard to bring those up. Then I'm going to go to 3 and I am going to rotate left before I rotate right. So I'm going to do 90. I'm going to highlight them, F9. I'm going to bring this bottom one across and the top one down. Again, I'm going to make it delayed slightly, so I'm going to bring that down a bit. Then I'm going to repeat that on the other side. So now I have copy and pasted this here, so to do that you click over where it says blur mode curves and you press Ctrl C and then you press Ctrl V to paste. And then I'm going to make this in the opposite direction, so I'm going to make this minus 90 and then the end will be at 0. And then I'm going to highlight them, and the graph has to go in the opposite direction now, so that one comes down, that one comes across. So this is what this looks like. So as you can see, it looks quite smooth, but I think it's missing something, and that is shakes. Now, I will not be showing you how to make shakes in this video, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to make them myself. I'm terrible at shakes, I can't make them look good, but there are plenty of giveaways on Instagram or shake packs on YouTube that you can download and use if you wish. And I'm just going to use some that I previously got in a giveaway, and these are my favourite shakes. And as you can see, just by adding shakes, the edit looks so much better and so much smoother in my opinion, but you don't have to add shakes if you don't want to. So there you go, that is our finished edit. Now in this video I'm not going to show you what I do with it next in terms of colouring and other effects and things I add because they are optional, but if you want I will make another video explaining my render settings and all the other bits I add like panning and explain what RSMB is and colouring and all that stuff.